In today's highly competitive housing market, millions of Americans are priced out of buying a home.
Buying a home is often a challenge for many Americans, but there are a few factors that disproportionately impact Latino home buyers.
Some big numbers coming out of the housing market today, and they're not looking pretty.
America is in an affordable housing crisis. The rising cost to rent or buy a home has become a real problem for American families. And in the last 10 years alone, home prices for single-family homes in metropolitan areas have more than doubled. But housing is a basic need, and the desire to have a place to live in and call your own is part of the American dream. So, how did we get here? The median price for a starter single-family home has gone from around $166,000 in 2011 to about $353,000 in 2021. And while homeownership is harder and harder to achieve, rent prices are also through the roof. According to Realtor.com, US rents hit a record high in July 2022 for the 17th month in a row. These drastic increases are leaving many American families in difficult situations. So, how did this happen? It all boils down to one main issue: a housing shortage. Simply put, there just aren't enough homes being built for those who want to buy them. According to a recent estimate from 2021, the US is short 3.8 million housing units, and that number has more than doubled from 2012 to 2020. It's a classic case of supply and demand. When supply is low and demand is high, prices go up. And what once seemed to be a problem in big cities like Los Angeles and New York has also become an issue in smaller, less dense cities. But this didn't happen overnight. America's housing shortage has actually been brewing since before the Great Recession of 2007 to 2009 started.
We are in the midst of a serious financial crisis. We've seen triple-digit swings in the stock market. Major financial institutions have teetered on the edge of collapse, and some have failed.
That's when loose mortgage lending practices by banks, artificially high home prices, and subprime mortgages, which are mortgages made available to people who have low credit scores, caused the housing market to crash. People couldn't afford to make payments, and their homes went into foreclosure.
The foreclosure crisis is far from over. Nearly 2 million Americans have lost their homes so far this year.
The result was a decrease in the demand to build homes, but the market never caught back up. Today, the housing shortage is bigger than ever, and there are a number of factors that caused it. First up, restrictive and dated zoning laws. Zoning laws are basically the rules that dictate where and how Americans live in a city, but some of these laws are making it harder to build more homes and keep up with demand. For example, in nearly every major US city, the construction of apartment buildings is banned in at least 70% of residential areas. This creates limited options for developers who are trying to accommodate a growing demand. Second, stricter lending rules from banks. After the Great Recession in 2007, banks drastically tightened their lending rules after many predatory private mortgage lenders misled and deceived borrowers into high interest and abusive loan terms they couldn't repay, and ultimately resulted in foreclosure. In order to protect consumers from these practices, the US government passed rules and regulations, such as the Dodd-Frank Act in 2010.
These reforms represent the strongest consumer financial protections in history.
This law created federal oversight over banks, insurance companies, and mortgage lenders, among others. Now, the law has created greater financial stability overall, but it's also made it harder for borrowers to get a loan. The last contributor to the housing shortage? A labor shortage for home building. Today, there are less workers available to build homes thanks to two major factors: immigration and the lasting impact of the pandemic. Immigrant workers account for almost 25% of the labor force in home building. But migration into the United States has significantly declined since 2016 as a result of restrictive immigration laws and the pandemic. But the pandemic affected the housing crisis in other ways too. Supply chain issues further slowed home building and added higher cost. and the increase in remote work resulted in many Americans leaving big cities and moving out to more rural or suburban areas. This, coupled with historically low interest rates, encouraged more people to purchase their own homes, and pushed the demand and therefore the prices for homes way up. In fact, home prices have gone up 45% between 2019 and 2022. And all of these factors have trickled down to the renting market. A shortage in the number of homes to buy has made renters stay put, which has pushed landlords to continue raising prices. One recent report found that in the 50 largest US metro areas, the median cost of rent rose 19% from December 2020 to December 2021. And in a country where nearly 10 million people pay half of their income in rent, this has hit Americans especially hard. The lack of affordable housing for low-income renters has caused millions of people to experience eviction, homelessness, and housing insecurity. Today, over 300,000 people experience homelessness on a single night and don't have a permanent place to call home. And those most affected tend to be Black and Hispanic. While federal and local governments have offered some temporary relief, not enough has been done to address the national crisis we find ourselves in today.
Housing is a human right! Fight, fight, fight!